You wake up, walk to the bathroom, and look in the mirror. At first, everything seems normal. Then, almost automatically, your eyes lock onto that one thing you wish you could change. Maybe it's your nose. Maybe it's your skin. Maybe it's your jawline. Within seconds, your mood starts to drop. Now here's the strange part. Later that same day, a friend tells you that you look great. You smile, but deep down, you don't believe them. You assume they're just being nice. So who's right? Your friend or your own brain? Because you think you don't look good. What if I told you that your brain isn't showing you an objective picture of yourself? What if it's quietly editing what you see without you even realizing it? That might sound impossible. After all, your eyes don't lie, right? Actually, they do, because your eyes don't decide how you see yourself. Your brain does, and your brain has one job above all else, to protect you, not to make you happy, not to make you confident, just to keep you safe. Sometimes that means seeing danger where there isn't any, and sometimes that danger becomes your own reflection. Today, we're going to uncover why your brain can convince you that you're unattractive even when other people don't see you that way. By the end of this video, you might never look at a mirror the same way again. Let's start with one of the biggest misconceptions about human vision. Most people think their eyes work like a camera, capturing reality exactly as it is. But that's not how the brain works. Every second, your brain receives an overwhelming amount of information, far more than it could ever process in real time. So instead of showing you everything, it filters, predicts, and fills in the gaps. In other words, you don't see the world exactly as it is. You see the version your brain believes is most useful. Think about optical illusions. Even when you know they're illusions, your brain still falls for them. That's because seeing isn't just about looking. It's about interpretation. The same thing happens when you look at your own face. If you've spent years believing that one feature is unattractive, your brain starts treating that belief as a fact. It begins searching for evidence to support it. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. Once you believe something, your brain naturally notices information that agrees with that belief and ignores information that doesn't. Imagine two people looking at the exact same photograph of you. One person thinks you have a warm, friendly smile. The other notices your hairstyle. Meanwhile, you only see the tiny blemish on your forehead. Who's seeing the real picture? The answer is, all of you are seeing different versions of the same image, because each brain focuses on different details. But here's the problem. Your brain spends more time analyzing your face than anyone else's ever will. You've seen your reflection thousands of times. You've memorized every angle, every scar, every tiny imperfection. The more familiar something becomes, the easier it is to notice even the smallest changes. That means you're judging yourself with a level of detail that nobody else uses. It's like standing 1 inch away from a painting and criticizing every tiny brushstroke while everyone else steps back and admires the entire picture. And that's only the beginning, because there's another invisible trick your brain plays on you every single day. And once you notice it, you'll understand why even your mirror isn't telling the whole truth. So if your brain already has a habit of focusing on your flaws, there's another problem that makes things even worse. The tools you use to judge your appearance aren't as accurate as you think. Let's start with the mirror. Most people trust their reflection without questioning it, but the face you see in the mirror isn't actually the face everyone else sees. It's a flipped version of you. You've spent years becoming familiar with that reflection, so your brain treats it as your normal face. Now think about what happens when someone takes a photo of you. Suddenly, your face looks different. Maybe one side seems uneven. Maybe your smile feels strange. You immediately think, is that really what I look like? The answer is, not exactly. A camera captures a single frozen moment. It removes movement, depth, and the tiny expressions that make your face look natural in real life. Different lenses can stretch or compress your features. Lighting can create shadows that make your skin look rougher or your nose look larger. Even the distance between the camera and your face changes the way your proportions appear. That's why you can take 10 photos in a row and somehow look like 10 different people. But your brain doesn't think about camera distortion. Instead, it quietly says, this is what everyone sees. And once again, confirmation bias takes over. You save the worst photo in your memory and forget the dozens of normal ones. Then social media enters the picture. Every day, your brain scrolls past hundreds of faces, bright lighting, perfect angles, carefully chosen expressions, sometimes filters, sometimes editing, sometimes dozens of deleted photos before one is finally posted. But your brain rarely remembers that process. It simply compares your everyday reality to someone else's carefully selected highlights. This is known as social comparison theory. Humans naturally compare themselves to the people around them to understand where they fit in. Thousands of years ago, that helped us survive in small communities. Today, your brain is comparing you to millions of strangers on the internet, and that's a comparison your mind was never built to handle. The more you compare yourself, the more your standards quietly shift. After seeing enough edited or unusually attractive faces, your brain starts treating them as normal. Suddenly, ordinary human features begin to look like flaws. That's one reason many people feel worse about their appearance after spending hours on social media, even if nothing about their face has changed. Now, there's another psychological trap that almost everyone falls into. It's called the spotlight effect. Imagine you wake up with a pimple before school, college, or work. You walk outside convinced that everyone will notice it. Every conversation feels awkward because you think people are staring at your face. But here's what researchers found. Most people either don't notice or they forget about it almost immediately. Why? Because they're too busy thinking about themselves. Just like you're worried about your own appearance, they're worrying about theirs. Everyone feels like they're standing under a giant spotlight, when in reality, each person is carrying their own invisible spotlight. That realization can be surprisingly freeing. The flaws that keep you awake at night are often details that nobody else remembers. But if that's true, why do those insecurities still feel so real? The answer lies much deeper than mirrors, cameras, or social media. It lies in the stories your brain has been collecting for years, and those stories can quietly shape the way you see yourself without you ever realizing it. Think back to the first time you became aware of your appearance. Maybe someone made a careless comment about your nose. Maybe a classmate laughed at your smile. Maybe you compared yourself to someone who seemed more attractive. For a moment, it probably didn't seem like a big deal, but your brain remembers emotional experiences far better than ordinary ones. When something makes you feel embarrassed, rejected, or judged, your brain stores that memory as a warning. Its goal is simple: protect you from feeling that pain again. The problem is that your brain doesn't always know when the danger is gone. Years later, one comment from childhood can still influence the way you see yourself today. Without realizing it, you begin looking for proof that the old story is true. If someone compliments you, you assume they're just being polite. If one photo looks bad, you treat it as evidence. If one person doesn't seem interested in you, your brain quickly jumps to the conclusion that your appearance must be the reason. But that's not evidence. That's your brain protecting an old belief. Here's something researchers have found over and over again. When people rate their own attractiveness, they often judge themselves much more harshly than strangers do. In other words, the image in your mind is often more critical than the image other people actually see. And there's another fascinating effect. Psychologists call it the halo effect. When someone seems confident, kind, funny, or genuinely interested in others, people naturally tend to see that person as more attractive. Notice what that means. Attractiveness isn't only about facial features, it's also about expression, body language, eye contact, the way you carry yourself. Think about someone you enjoy being around. Maybe they aren't a movie star, but after spending time with them, they somehow seem more attractive than when you first met them. Their face didn't change. Your perception did. The opposite is true as well. Someone can have perfect features, but if they're arrogant, cruel, or constantly negative, many people begin to see them as less attractive. Your brain connects appearance with emotion. That's why beauty is never just about what you see. It's also about what you feel. So how do you stop your brain from working against you? First, question your thoughts instead of automatically believing them. The next time you look in the mirror and immediately criticize yourself, ask a simple question. Is this a fact or just a thought? That small pause gives your brain a chance to break its usual pattern. Second, spend less time comparing yourself to people online. Most of what you see is carefully selected, edited, or captured under ideal conditions. Comparing your everyday life to someone else's best moment will always leave you feeling behind. Third, stop searching for flaws every time you see your reflection. The more often you inspect yourself, the more opportunities your brain has to invent problems that nobody else notices. Finally, remember something that's easy to forget. When people think about you, they rarely think about the tiny details you obsess over. They remember how you made them laugh, how you listened, how you treated them, how they felt when they were around you. Those memories last much longer than a small blemish, an uneven smile, or a bad hair day. So the next time your brain tells you that you're not attractive enough, remember this: your brain is incredibly powerful, but it isn't perfectly objective. It can exaggerate flaws, it can replay old fears, it can confuse familiarity with reality, and sometimes it tells stories that simply aren't true. So before you believe every negative thought about your appearance, ask yourself one final question. Am I seeing myself through my own eyes, or through years of fear, comparison, and self-doubt? Because the answer to that question might change the way you see yourself forever. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe